This is Daniella Wislon reporting from the Apollo Theater, where we are covering the Merging Women's panel organized by Harlem for Obama. The discussion was moderated by Michaela Angela Davis, an urban culture commentator, and featured political strategist L. Joy Williams, civil rights activist Tamika Mallory, political strategist Glenda Carr, and radio talk show host, author, and playwright Esther Arma. The main question that was addressed was, why aren't there more women in politics?
If you ask a woman to run, if you ask a woman to do something else in another organization, you know, they start ticking off, well, I got to do this, and I got to go to school, and I got to drop off the kids, and I got to pick up the kids, and then I got to go to work. But then also not realizing that a number of the things that they do is civic participation, is part of the process.
We're used to playing the back role. Like, we're used to being the breath behind everything, keeping it moving, sort of keeping the machine moving. What is that statement? Behind every good man, there's a good woman, or whatever it is. Like, we're okay with that, and we're used to that. And I think that that's sort of what has to change in our minds. We have to be able to see ourselves as being the leaders that we are.
We first have to recognize we have power, right? So there's 22 million black women in the United States. We are 65% of the black electorate. Yet still, 40 years since Chisholm ran for president, our leadership numbers are still does not match our electoral power.
Young Voices went behind the scenes to ask questions important to the next generation of voters, like, why should young people get involved in the political process?
When it comes to young people, they think of politics as someone else's job and someone else's game and someone else's world. It has nothing to do with them. And that's part of how we present it. It's how we talk about it. It's how we publicize it. And not only is it wrong, it's dangerous. You need to be much more engaged in deciding your own course. It's for us to reimagine what power is so that young people understand they have a stake in that. It's not some separate world.
Black women in the media, their portrayal to other people.
That's what you say. There's one question, but that is the question. Like, that's the big, loaded question of, like, how particularly young women of color are seen and portrayed in the media is, I think it's probably one of the civil rights issues of our time, you know, particularly, or feminist issues or race issues, because I think that there is such underrepresentation, misrepresentation. Young women of color have to create their own media, and they can now, given, you know, Tumblr and Twitter and Pinterest and, you know, all these other places to project other images and intersect them into the conversation. And media activism is really important because most of the people creating the images about women of color are not women of color.
The 2008 Barack Obama presidential campaign energized young voters, but even still, fewer than half of the nearly 50 million people aged 18 to 29 who were eligible to vote went to the polls. Many analysts predict an even smaller turnout in the 2012 elections. Joyce Johnson is running against longtime Congressman Charlie Rangel in New York City's 15th Congressional District.
You have a right and obligation to vote and to participate in politics because this country is your country. The future that is a country will be the future you make it. If you stand on the sideline, that future will be made by someone else.
This is Daniella Wislon reporting for Young Voices.